How's it going, everybody?
Awesome. Here we are.
Good. Hi,
Beautiful day.
Stefan.
How's it going?
Great. Awesome. Okay. Well, let me set up a couple quick things here. And then we'll be good to go. Okay, awesome. All right, everybody. Well, here we are. We are here at the second EDU webinar for the TPC. So this is our second of a long-running series of quarterly Q&A sessions that are specifically for CrossFit coaches. So my name is Nicole Christensen. I'm excited you guys are here. And this week, or this month, I'm super excited because we have a very special guest, longtime mentor and friend, Stefan Roche. Stefan, thanks for being here.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, we have to read your accolades, but I had to condense it down from like 7 pages to like three sentences. So just so everybody knows, Stefan Roche works currently as a senior content writer for CrossFit Education, but he worked for a long time prior to that as a flow master for CrossFit seminar staff, and for many years. But additionally, Stefan has an extensive background, more than 15 years experience as a collegiate and tactical strength and conditioning coach. So he's worked at institutions such as UCLA, the University of San Diego, and as well as the US Navy's EOD Group 1. So Stefan, thanks for joining us this morning. It's a little bit early for you. I mean, not really early for you, but you're coming to us from the West Coast. You've probably been up for what, like 3 hours?
Yeah, I've been up for a few hours. I was so excited to be here. So.
Couldn't sleep. Sweet. Well, I'm glad you're here. Okay, so before we kick off, everybody, on this webinar piece, a little bit of housekeeping. So first, we've enabled closed captioning. If you don't want to see it, you can just go ahead and click the little CC icon and it'll hide the subtitles there and they'll go away. Now, this webinar is being recorded. You probably got notification of that, and we'll make it available to everybody that's registered today, and we'll send out an email after we're done today. Now, anytime you have a question, please go ahead and drop those into the chat and we'll answer as many questions as we have time for. Or what we did last time is we actually took some of those questions and we popped them over to this webinar. And then finally, we would love to know a little bit about you guys as we kick off. So Whitney's going to help us out with a poll. So go ahead and fill that poll out for us in the next few minutes, and Stefan and I'll get chatting, and then we'll kick it off. So Stefan, part of the reason that, of many reasons that we got you for this second webinar was because you wrote this article, Do It Right, Do It Well. And it debuted in the Professional Coach, and then it was put on the main site. And the gist of the article is basically talking about the things in CrossFit that we need to do right and do well. And can you talk a little bit, because I know a lot of people the article was well received. What was your impetus for writing the article?
Well, I think it was because over the years, it's so easy, first of all, to take fitness way too seriously. And we see these internet debates going back and forth from people outside our community attacking CrossFit, people inside our community having debates about what's the best way to do this. And if you just pull back, CrossFit is a beautiful, elegant, and pretty simple program. I'll never say it's easy, because obviously it's not, but the principles and the philosophy behind it is relatively simple. And if you just follow the blueprint that was given to us and do it well, then you will get the incredible results that we've seen over the years. And so the two pieces were, doing it right was just following. If you take the 100 words of fitness, there's your blueprint. You don't need to go much deeper than that. You don't need to have these debates about, whether high rep Olympic lifting is bad for you, or which nutritional, philosophy is absolutely the best. Read the first 2 sentences of that 100 words of fitness. So that was the do it right part. And then one piece that really speaks to me is, I think a lot of the criticism I hear about CrossFit is, someone will start off the sentence with, see, I don't mind CrossFit. I just don't like the application of CrossFit because of this. And they talk about poor form, or they show videos of someone missing a clean poorly and things like that. CrossFit fails. That's not
Yeah.
CrossFit. We very, very, very clearly at our level one and then anywhere we can write it, talk about technique, talk about how important that is. We have things like threshold training. No one else talks about threshold training, mechanics, consistency, and intensity the way we do. So I guess it troubles me to say it nicely
Yeah.
when these people attack us on that, because it's what do we call that? A straw man argument, right? They're making it
Right.
up. It's not. There's nothing wrong with the CrossFit philosophy and the way we do things when they're done right. You know, it's so I will always hammer
Yeah.
that message home, and our coaches out there, our trainers and coaches in the affiliates, they definitely have a responsibility to holding up that standard and making sure their athletes are doing it right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, if you take some of those arguments just and put them into other sports or other things that we do, you know, there is a responsibility to do it right, whether it's, you know, coaching Pee Wee football, whether it's coaching high school swimmers. And you can look at volume and application and loading and all those different elements, but they all have, you know, set best practices, set parameters of how to do it right and how to do it well. I think because sometimes we also, you know, CrossFit as sport and as fitness, because it enters that fitness space, I think it somehow gets criticism that is, when layered onto another application, seems kind of out from left field.
Yeah, definitely. And in the application of CrossFit and the practice of CrossFit, there is a learning process, and there will always be a learning process. So I'm not saying everything has to be done perfectly, but there's guidelines how to miss a barbell in the Olympic lifts, you know, when form is egregiously wrong and dangerous, what we need to fix. But every sport, everywhere, there's a learning process as people refine their skills. And for some reason, that's not acceptable in CrossFit.
Right.
I mean, I've seen people doing kettlebells. I don't hear this much from the kettlebell community, but I've seen some pretty bad kettlebell form going on. But hey, that's learning. So
yeah. And we actually just had a question in the chat here, a follow-up question, you know, from that's from Sergio, that says, we see all over the world trainers sub intensity with high amounts of volume in a 60-minute session. What do you think is the core misunderstanding for that poor application of our methodology? And it's right there in line with do it right, do it well. But, you know, what do you see as the baseline misunderstanding?
I think really one, intensity is hard. Coaching intensity is hard, and finding that perfect balance, that threshold training where you are able to balance technique yet push the athlete to a suitable level of intensity is difficult. And it's very easy to gravitate towards, well, I did a lot of work with the volume piece, but I mean, remember, intensity is where you get the results. And so if a coach isn't comfortable with that intensity piece and the threshold training, developing the mechanics, the consistency, and then finding that intensity, you just need to practice it instead of giving up and just saying, well, I'm just going to put a lot of volume on this. It's not a big deal if you have I would err on the side of caution. It's not a big deal if for a few workouts, several workouts, you don't hit that athlete's perfect level of intensity for that workout. You'll get there.
Right.
Just keep nudging, keep stepping. Remember, this is a long-term process. We're not trying to get people fit by Saturday.
Right.
We're trying to give them a lifetime of enjoyment and health and fitness. So let this be a 6-month, 12-month, whatever learning process of slowly pushing someone up to that line as you get to know them, as you feel more comfortable with their movement, as your eye gets more practiced and you get better at coaching when someone's moving and finding intensity. It's a wonderful journey. So do it with them.
Yeah. And I think, again, just having I think that's the leap of faith in a way, that it's not that we're asking our coaches to make it, because it's obviously there in the methodology, but there's so much information coming from, let's say, outside sources, that it's just the same thing from do it right, do it well, right? Like the desire to dumb it down so that the degree of coaching doesn't have to be as high, the level of coaching doesn't have to move up and at the pace with the athletes as they develop. those are all scary things in their own right for coaches to have to work through. And it's really not specific to CrossFit, right? That could be if you coach Pee Wee football or, Pee Wee soccer, or whatever it is, and then you move up to a high school program and then you want to apply and go coach a collegiate program. Like it's a very similar trajectory. We just, in a way, we expect it within the walls of the affiliate. But our coaches are completely capable of doing that.
Absolutely.
But again, it's that leap of faith of trusting, like, no, if I don't overprogram the volume and I do work more of a practice component into this, that will pay off in dividends because their work capacity will go up over those 6 months in a more GPP basis, right? Versus I got better at doing longer Metcons with more volume.
And we do have we do put in the longer Metcons. You're going to hit that piece, but if that's all you do, then you miss. And you use the word dumb it down, and that to me encapsulates one of the beautiful things about CrossFit that we need to hang on to. We don't compromise. We refuse to dumb it down. Everybody's going to learn the Olympic lifts in some way, shape, or form. Could be with an empty bar, could be with PVC pipe, could be with a med ball, but we don't dumb it down. Complex, difficult to learn movements. And, we're pretty good coaches at them. Eventually, you get so good at coaching them, you can teach someone the Olympic lifts in a day, so that they're moving at least properly in that. So we won't compromise on that. And that is why we get the results that other programs can't duplicate. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'll read everyone a little section from Stefan's article. We don't dumb down CrossFit to make it easier for people to do. Let our imitators and competitors race to the bottom by following that route. Omitting challenging movements would be cheating our athletes out of the greatest rewards. To not do Olympic lifts or squats, deadlifts or presses or gymnastics movements because they take time to learn and master is completely missing the point. CrossFit incorporates these movements because they are challenging to master. And I think if we really all just harness that sentiment as we make those decisions on the gym floor of how we're guiding our athletes, like that's where that next level of fitness truly does lie for everybody. Now think about this, and Nicole Carroll put this in my brain because I never really thought about it because I just assumed, hey, we're doing muscle ups, men, women, we're all trying to do muscle ups. Before CrossFit, women didn't participate on rings, right? In the sport of gymnastics, there's no ring evolution for the women. And now you look at what women are doing on rings because of CrossFit. I mean, totally. You can ask. Totally. So, yeah. Absolutely. Okay. All right. Well, let's get started with some questions. What do you say? Let's do it. I think I have the first one here. You have the first one. Everybody, if you didn't join us for the first webinar, these are questions that were submitted through the professional coach, and Stefan and I are going to just ping pong asking each other the questions and, see where we go. Who knows where we'll go? Who knows? When you and I get together, wow. But luckily it's live. All right. Luckily it's live. So I'll read this. Sorry, I have old eyes. I'll be squinting, but I'll get this out. So the first question, and this is for you, Nicole. Do you have advice on the best way or most personable way to make athletes in a bigger gym or class still feel that they're getting personalized training within the 1 hour constraint of a CrossFit class? Yeah. I think, okay, so if we go back to the root of the question, I think it's, to make them still feel that they're getting personalized training. And I think there's maybe semantics, but it's not about them still feeling that they're getting personal training. It's about they actually are getting personal training. And so I think if we just look there at the expectations of how much one-on-one interaction is going to create that personalized feel for an athlete, you can go either the heart and soul side of it, or you can go the formulaic, I have a spreadsheet side, and probably both are good metrics. So if you think about the one-on-one environment with an athlete, the number of interactions that you have, it's hundreds, right, in that hour, whether it's cues, a correction, asking them how they're doing, interacting, smiling, all those things fall into that. When you go to that 12 person class, a baseline number of interactions that I think is healthy. And again, don't,
This isn't like the old, what was it? Where did the 15 body weight overhead squats number come from? It just popped into my head. You know, it was like 15 body weight overhead squats is a good number. And then I think, who was it? Up in Montana or whatnot. He was like, "Oh yeah, I just pulled that
I just
number
made
out.
that up. Yeah.
I just made that up, but it became this like
thought it was
iconic
hard.
thing. 15 body weight overhead squats. Anyway, so don't quote me on this number, but you know, I think 15 interactions with each athlete. That's how you preserve authentically, right? That personal interaction with your athletes. And so when you think about what that looks like, you know, 10 of those need to be cues at least, right? And then you've got the little back and forths of, hey, how's it going? Or like whatever it is. But you know, 10 cues per athlete, that's how you're going to maintain that. We can talk about how to get there in a second. On the heart and soul side of that same metric of, you know, how do you preserve that personalized feel? I think also just making it genuine. You know, I think there's a real thing of, yes, we want to know our kids, names of our athletes' kids and what they're doing in life, but that needs to come from a place of authenticity. And so also, yeah, exactly, time. And as long as a coach, you're looking for those opportunities, but also evaluating, is this an authentic, do I really care in this area, or is this just not authentic to me? I think that's how we keep the personalized element of our coaching. And as an example, you know, I'll be honest, like there's some things about my athletes that I probably would fail on a test. Like, do you know this, right? But if you ask me their 1 rep max deadlift, I guarantee I can give it to you within 15 pounds, period. Nice. So, but that's because that's something that resonates with me, but then I can connect with them on that. So I think you also have to start from a place of like, what is personal to you and your person as a coach. And then lastly, I think the last part that is just a giant, you know, elephant in the room is it takes practice. Yeah. You know, when you think about how you're going to maintain personalized training in a one-on-one environment, it goes everything from the preparation you're doing to how you're going to scale it. Were you able to look at a class list and see who had signed up for class to be able to be like, oh, I need to make sure I have this option, this option. Oh, this person just came out of foundations. So you can also set yourself up for success to be able to deliver that in a 1 hour class. Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure you had experience with that too, like on the training floor.
Absolutely. And I was thinking about this while you were discussing, you know, the heart and soul piece, because, you know, a lot of times after a training session, I would just, did it feel right? I didn't have, you know, my metrics that I hit. Did it feel right? Did I hit, you know, each person? Did I coach enough? One thing that really helped me in the scenario. So I'll give an example. When I started coaching UCLA baseball, 6 a.m. workout, 35 guys and me. So that's to me, that's a big group. I know there's coaches out there who are very good and very practiced. They'll handle 60 guys and they'll handle it like it's a group of 12, but 35 was stretching my limits. But the skills I learned working with CrossFit, the skills we were taught on how to manage the circle, and also the level 2 skills. I mean, the same skills you learn at the level 2, how to coach someone here, but also address someone over there, that type of stuff was invaluable to me. And so what I wanted out of that session was I was an Energizer bunny. You got an hour and a half with these guys, and you do not stop. It's like you're on a lot of caffeine, maybe not a monster, but you're on a lot of caffeine, and you're flying around. Hands on. I like to put hands on coaching people, low back, you know, tight here.
Yeah, you are like
knees
that,
out
yeah.
here. It just it's something I taught from something I learned from someone else that I saw, wow, I'm getting immediate results with tactile cues. So I use them a lot, and that helps me make sure that I'm covering the group. And so I remember, I think it was Coach Glassman who said, when you go from one-on-one training to then group training, the attention each individual gets should be the same as the one-on-one group. And that was always in my mind. And I was flying around calling names out, saying, hey, knees out over there, and, you know, hand on the low back over here. And, you know, if I wasn't sweating and exhausted after a session, I probably didn't work hard enough in there. So that, that's kind of the heart and soul, like you talked about. It's like, just jump in and go.
Well, and I think you just brought up a really good point there too, in that, you mentioned the one-on-one and the size of the group that you can handle. And I do think that this has been lost in a lot of our initial application of CrossFit and how our coaches are, growing into what they're doing. At the close of level 1, we say, so what are you going to do tonight? You're going to go home, grab a broomstick, go over to your neighbor's, front door and say, hey, I'm going to teach you the air squat, the front squat, and the overhead squat. Right. Yeah. But what was really reflected in that is you need to be able to do it right and do it well with one person. Yeah. And then we find this opportunity to grow into 2 people. And I think that's also something that maybe I didn't really think about until just now with that question is there's a confidence that comes from, well, yeah, I can do 2 people. Yeah, sure, for sure. I think that's maybe the starting point. The question is like, if you think about one-on-one, could you comfortably lead somebody through a one-on-one session where they felt like they got 100 cues and all that? Okay. Can you do it with 2? Can you do it with 3? And then you find your edge.
Yep.
And that's probably where it's not feeling personalized. And so, I mean, in a way that's almost, okay, that's where you got to work and find those times.
Yeah. And as a coach, there's things you can do. Now, this becomes more the mechanical side of things. There's things you can do to help yourself out. And I brought this up before. It's a very simple lesson I learned at UCLA, a strength coach named Mike Lynn, who had a very organized structure to his workouts. And I used that throughout my career as a strength coach in college. If you have 35 athletes, right? So you're going to, we had a big weight room at UCLA. I'm going to use 8 racks for those 35 athletes. All right. So 4 to a rack, a couple racks have 5 guys. They're going to have to move a little faster than everybody else. We're putting them on a clock. But if I'm using 8 racks and we're doing something like a heavy back squat or something, then I really only need to watch 8 people. I'm not watching 35 people squat. I don't fill the room and have one individual at every rack. I'm watching 8 people, and I could make that smaller or bigger as needed. But that's a much easier group to handle on that. And so, I often go to CrossFit gyms, and obviously with a Metcon, it's different, but I'll go to a CrossFit gym and there's 12 people in the class, and 12 people grab a bar, and then 12 people are working on the snatch at the same time. Why not make a group of 3 or 4 at that bar, have them help coach each other, help load, get rest that's needed in there as we're working on technical stuff. And now as a coach, I'm only watching 4 or 3 people at a time, and I can see them all. If it's a set of 3, I can get a rep from everybody. So little things like that will help.
And you can apply that to warm up. Like, it's an interesting thing. Absolutely. Like, a lot of athletes, a lot of gyms only have, maybe 3, 2, whatever GHDs. Well, if you make a warm up that's got, a minute of rowing, and it's got some, some type of stretch sequence, whether it's like, inchworms or whatnot, and 10 hip extensions on the GHD. Well, the coach can hang at the GHD and coach just the hip extensions while those other athletes are moving through. Absolutely. And it's the same concept, I think, as what you just said, but like, you can give yourself the opportunity to be able to work in a more personalized one-on-one with a higher skill movement and warm up, and then be able to move them through. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. All right. So Stefan, almost a extension of this question, the first question, how do you engage clients who are not interested in technical coaching?
Oh, well, that's too bad. They don't really have a choice. They get coached. Yeah. I mean, here's my thought. Now, I've dealt a lot with college kids, and this is actually rare. Let's be fair. This is a rare happening, but our saying in college was just be more persistent and outlast them, because in 4 years they'll be gone if they never want coaching. Just coach them for 4 years and then they'll be gone. In the affiliate, you don't have that option, but keep coaching. That's what you're there for. Keep coaching. Make sure, always find a positive. You can always find a positive in someone's movement, compliment them, cue a correction, and just keep doing it. And over and over and over again, be positive and cheery, and almost like you don't even notice that they don't want the coaching, and outlast them, persist.
Yeah, I like outlast, persist. I think it's interesting too, when again, it kind of goes back to the relating to your athletes. When we use the phrase technical coaching, I might fall into the category. I mean, some of my athletes fall into the category. Like, I don't know if they actually resonates with them, the technical elements of every component of the snatch or the clean or the muscle up. Right. And so I sometimes think that also knowing what the athlete needs in that moment, some athletes, when they look confused, they need to know a little bit more of the why behind it. And I think that lends itself to some of the technical elements of how. Some athletes, though, when they get to that moment, they really just need to be able to be told, you know, hey, your elbow's here and I need it to be here. I need you to send it 6 inches behind you. It's getting at the technical component that's maybe getting them to move better. But I do think that there's an element that some people, they don't want the technical jargon, and that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, it's, we talk about that, right? Like, it's the difference between Sarah Hoppy and I talk about this a bunch. You know, some coaches want to learn through, like, I took the course, I did the quiz questions, and I got the certificate, and that's how I learned. And that's Sarah. For me, I want to watch another coach do it. You know, I want to read an article and then go try some stuff or watch a quick video. And it's just different styles of learning. I think our athletes do that too.
Absolutely. And probably the number one skill a coach can have is being a people person. And I mean by that, being able to read body language, being able to read the scenario, understand what's going on, have empathy for them, know or ask what they're thinking, and go from there. All the technical stuff you can, like you said, learn from a course, a book, videos, but that interaction with people where you can get someone out of a funk or make the light bulb go on, things like that, that is personal interaction, communication, empathy is a I'll use that word again, is a big thing. And so humor, people who come in with a sense of humor and lighten up the room. I mean, it's very successful.
Yeah.
If I could do anything, you know, I would like to make don't be so serious. Have fun. We are going.
No, there's no fun here. No fun.
You see people who just, it looks like they hate their workout and they're just like, oh, I'm going to have fun with it. It's going to hurt. Right. Like, yes, I understand that piece.
Sure.
And in the moment, embrace the pain and do what you need. But before, after, while you're getting coaching, man, this should be a fun enterprise. This should be the highlight of your day. So if you can engage with people like that, like you said, there might be a person who needs that technical piece that pulled aside. Hey, take a little rest. We're not going to go right into the next rep. Let's talk about exactly what's going on with your body and what the technique is, and why you have a false grip, so you can go from pulling right to pushing, and where your elbows need to be and all that stuff. And then there's the other person, you know, and Coach Bergner was a great coach for this, who just needs a little bit of motivation or a little inspiration or a little confidence building at that time. So, but people who don't want to be coached, I haven't found that many. If you continue to engage them, it's really hard to just be an asshole. Sorry, I'm not sure if I can say that, but it's really hard. You know, if a coach is loving you and helping you and complimenting you, I've never seen someone who's just like, no. I mean,
well, and it's interesting because Matt Swift wrote an article for The Professional Coach not long ago. I'll try and pop it into the comments here. You know, talking about the relationships with athletes, and he has a line in it where he says, you know, identify the athletes at your gym that you think just don't want to be coached, and think about why that relationship or why your perspective is like that. And we did an exercise with our staff, our team at Roots one time, and along those lines, or from that article. And I think a lot of it is that when we talk about empathy, it goes so much more than just sort of seeing where they're coming from. It's also saying, I, as a coach, think that this is important, and so I'm going to try and make you think that this is important, versus saying, I, as a coach, see that these are the things that are important to you. So I got to figure out how to deliver my information so that it resonates with you and drives you. And I think that's where we can, thank you, Emily, for posting. So set the bar high. And I think that there's a lot to be said with that. I know that I've had athletes where I'm like, they don't like working with me, or they just don't want to listen. And a lot of times I'm just trying to put my style of coaching onto them rather than saying like, okay, they might need a little bit different. And I think that only comes with practice. I'm trying to be a people person, like you said.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, fist bumps, high fives go a long way, and people like to be successful. They like to be complimented. They
Right.
like to see that they're getting better. So even if you start off with someone, I mean, collegiate setting, those kids have to be there. They don't have a choice. Right? They're
That's
not
what we
paying
need
money.
in CrossFit.
Yeah, they're not paying. I always said, hey, if you were paying for this in the outside world, your attitude would be way different. But eventually, over time, if you engage them and you work with them, they know you care about them, you
Right.
respect them, and you're trying to teach them a skill, and they, you know, almost inevitably get better at stuff because they're spending the time in there, and you're hounding them and coaching them. People like to get better and be successful. And you can take someone who hates the weight room to start and doesn't want to be there, to someone who really enjoys it, and it becomes an area that they enjoy because of progress and results that they see. And I think that's something that great coaches do very well, is that they help people along this path and get them those results, and that to that person, that's very satisfying.
Yeah. And what you just said, you seem to have such a good, you have so much perspective, right? When that freshman athlete walks into your weight room, the first week of school, and you can tell they don't like the weight room, you've seen the example of the person that learns to love it. So you kind of know what that path looks like.
Yeah.
And it's not like a challenge for you, but you're like, okay, it's gonna be okay. Like, they don't have to love it right now. I'm not worried. I'm not trying to, hey, you're gonna like it right now in this moment. But that takes practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll find something you're good at, and the day I do, I will be all over you, cheering and saying that was awesome, that was good. And at that moment, usually you have that hook, and they're like sold. And because think about how sports are coached in this country. I mean, you were an athlete. A lot of sports, there's a lot of pressure. There's pressure for playing time. I'm not going to take your playing time away. I just want you to be as good as you can be in the weight room. There's pressure for, performance in games and things like that. And generally, if I went and watched a sport practice, it wasn't an uplifting experience. There was a lot of punishment being doled out, a lot of yelling at mistakes and things like that. And that's not the environment you want in a weight room, especially when they're getting that already from the sports side. So let the weight room, and now I compare this to an affiliate. That's what they're getting at work. The boss who's hounding them, a mistake that they feel sick about at work that they have to go back and fix the next day, whatever. Come into the weight room. This is your refuge. This is your sanctuary, your oasis, and have a blast here.
Yeah. No, yeah, totally. All right. Let's see. Who's up? Whose turn is it?
I think I'm up, right?
Okay. All right. You're up.
All right. So this is a quote of the question.
Okay.
We do not have any coaching development at all at our gym, and the owners do not seem to be creating a culture of excellence. 4 of us are really trying to pursue virtuosity every day, but we live in a small town and have limited access to feedback outside our group. I know getting feedback on a regular basis is the magic sauce to continued growth. Do you have any tips so we can continue to develop as coaches?
Oh yeah, man. Yeah.
Move.
I'm not, yeah, move. Yeah, I do. So I think, well, okay, let's start with who you've got. It sounds like there's 4 people in this.
There's 4, man. That's a pretty big group.
I was just going to say that. So I'm guessing that each of those 4 have a superpower within the element of coaching feedback. So I think probably one of them is really good with looking at interactions and being able to say, did you read the room? Did you read the person the way that actually was going on? So that's one evaluation that person can do, and watch the other 3's classes to give them that specific insight. I bet you another one is really good on being able to identify, be able to use cues and deliver cues. And so now they go and they watch a class and they say, hey, look, this is the number of cues that we're given, or these could be better. So as a starting point, it sounds like you've got a great crew to be able to help each other out. And I would say identify each person's superpower. And then for the next 6 months, say you're going to watch one person's class every month, or each of the three classes a month, and you're going to just evaluate on that one superpower that you have, and make choose between teaching, seeing, correcting, group and gym management, presence and attitude, and demonstration. Those 6 criteria of coaching to frame it. And you can find all the resources about what that is in the level 2 training guide, which is readily available. We can post it here in the chat room. So that, I would say that would be step 1. The second thing is I would take, let's say it's 5x5 deadlift, making it up, or it's a workout that's got a push press in it. I would have one of those coaches go around and take a 5-rep video of every single athlete in the class. And then I would have you guys go and get together, the 4 of you, sit there with the primary points of performance sheet of that movement, and watch that athlete move and be able to identify faults and talk about how you would have changed it and corrected it. I think that, it's great. Well, we love James Hobart. We love Julie Fouché, and we have them demo the movement as it looks beautifully. And then we have them demo faults. But I've always said this, and I can never quite articulate why, but real world faults look different than, slightly different. They're just, and they're more in the moment. And like we've said, there's a lot of other things going on. So we do that all the time at Roots. And it's just good. It helps us get on the same page. We see things, we miss things. So as an example, there, push press, say, you film the 12 push presses, you go get the primary points performance. All you're going to look for those 12 reps is vertical torso in the dip. And then you can watch 12 examples. Was it there or was it not there? And you can slow it down, and then that's a way that you guys can all work together. It's honestly, it's pretty fun. So that would be the resources that you have together. And then I think beyond that, you can do it a couple different ways. Find a course, that you are interested in, that you think you can help your team and bring back to your community. So, I think about the old days. I did not know very much at all about Olympic weightlifting or coaching kids. So I went out to the kids seminar. I took that course. And then when I came back, I shared what I learned with my team, and we changed a couple things. And that's just a way to get incrementally better. And I understand it might not be feasible for all 4 of you to go to all these courses. So divide and conquer, and then share the knowledge amongst your affiliate. So that's where I would start. I don't know, Stefan, you probably have some stuff to add.
That's awesome. No, I mean, I think you covered it. The fact that there's 4 of them, the work and effort they will do. I think that last piece I really like. No matter what they're doing, whether it's going to a course or they're doing drills in the gym or whatever, teaching a skill back to someone else is the best way to develop it in yourself. Coach Bergner does this at the weightlifting course. There's always a teach back portion, and we do that in courses as well.
Yeah,
I love that. There's 4 of them. So the work that they do in developing themselves and each other, teaching through the group, teaching themselves, then teaching the group. I mean, and like you said, divide and conquer. I mean, that's just going to 10x that process. So I think they can really handle this. It's going to be a very exciting, fantastic journey to do it. And then who knows, maybe they split off and they develop their own gym with everything that they've learned. So
absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah. Whitney, can we throw in the coach evaluation packet too? The 4-part one. So for that question too, when we talk about framing the feedback, we do have some one sheets that we put out a while ago that at least will be a good way to start framing some of that evaluation. All right, Stefan, how can I help develop my coaches to think on their feet? I know it's time in the trade, but is there anything I can do to assist in this timeline?
Oh, absolutely. Now, I definitely agree that just being in the trenches, getting the experience is huge. But like we just talked about, using the experiences of other coaches and making sure that all the coaches at the affiliate have learn from that is going to be the way to really speed up this process. So at a weekly meeting or however you interact with your team, definitely make note of the instances where, someone had to think fast on their feet and they did a very good job. Someone had to think fast on their feet and maybe there was a couple other things that needed to be done, and highlight those at the meeting and make sure that everybody understands, look, what can we learn from this? What should we take from this? If you encounter the same situation, these are the points that we're looking for. And there's a million situations. So yes, it's going to take time, but that will definitely accelerate the process. It's something that I think military and law enforcement are very good at. They call it an after action report and or a debrief. And every day as a police officer, you sit in a briefing room and they go over what happened the night before and what are the lessons to be learned. So I'm not seeing this maybe every day in an affiliate, but definitely on a weekly basis as these come up. It's a great way to speed up this process and make sure that we're all learning from each other's experiences, and just to move forward faster.
Yeah, and I also think too, if depending on the time that you have, I'm a big fan of beating people up on the fly in a good way. In the sense that, if not beating people up, that sounded, putting them on the spot. How's that? I think there's obviously being able to think on your feet. There's also, we have to acknowledge, I think sometimes that what are we thinking on our feet about? Right. And so one of my favorite stories, there's a coach at our gym who was interning coming up as a coach, and he was leading the class, and another coach was watching him and giving him feedback on the fly, and did you consider this, do you consider this? And an athlete came in and basically like halfway through the workout just put their stuff away and walked out the door. And Shane looked at Dave and was like, "You're just gonna let him walk out the door?" And Dave was like, and in that moment, right, like you got to think you're being forced to think on your feet, and he went out the door and did what he could and asked the questions and all that stuff. So I think sometimes if you have the means, and I'm sure, you've done this with strength coaches over the years, they don't just go out on the floor by themselves on day one, right? You're guiding them through it and saying like, how are you going to deal with this situation, or go deal with this now. Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And I think scaling is an example of something where you got to think on your feet, because you're at the whiteboard and 3 people come up to you and say, I heard this, I have this, or I'm not, I can't do this. What should I do?
Right.
So that's an area where there's some education that can go on there to make this less of a stressful task for a coach, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's the fun time too, right? Just on the floor and and to what you just said about scaling too, it's interesting. There's thinking on your feet, but you can also help your coaches bridge the gap. If you're there and the coach is presented with something that they don't know how to handle, but you can be there and be like, hey, you could consider this, this, or this. You're not giving them the answer, but they're not alone in thinking on their feet. And so you can kind of bridge them along.
Yeah. I was lucky enough that, like you said, in my coaching career, I started off with some smaller teams, which was helpful, but I also spent a lot of time being the assistant to bigger teams. And you almost learn from osmosis as you watch and see situations that are coming up and see how they're handled, because you're still in the action. When you're too far removed, sometimes it's hard to learn that stuff. So that might be a neat thing. I know it's complicated for getting people on work schedules and everything at an affiliate, but if you can have 2 coaches, the one who's the head coach and one who's the assistant, who's a learning coach for a while, that person will learn really fast, just being the assistant coach and seeing how that person handles, imagine if they watch a month worth of classes, even if it's just 1 a day, 30 classes that they're participating in over the course of a month or so, they're gonna gain a lot from that, and not have the pressure of having to make all the decisions, but in just seeing it, and then maybe just a recap after the workout, just, oh yeah, you saw that come up. Yeah, that's how I handled it. I could have done it this way or this way. That's what I was thinking about when it had. And when you pile up those scenarios, the learning is accelerated. Definitely.
Yeah. And that what you just said about learning being accelerated, I think that is that's that whole perspective thing, right? No one's going to walk on the gym floor day one and be able to handle,
No.
you know, every issue.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Athletes crying, I still can't handle very well. I just kind of, next. What do you need over here?
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you've got the coddle them, but then, you know, does it turn into like a full-blown tear session? You've got the steamroll, which,
Yep.
you know, has its own issues. And then you've got the like, I'm gonna give you a minute.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, let's see, where are we at?
I think I just read one.
Okay. We got a couple more.
Oh no, you did this. That was your question. So I've got one right here.
Okay.
I got one for you. So do you think an on-ramp program or a week of trial sessions works better for new members? Have you tried both? And which has provided you with better results?
I can confidently say that CrossFit Roots has tried everything. So
Absolutely.
I do have opinions on this one. Yeah, so we, we started with back in 2009, we started with the group foundations. It was 12 sessions. It was a month long, 3 days a week. We moved to 6 sessions. And, there was anywhere, from 3 to 6 people in those, depending on, where we were. Then we went to one-on-one foundations, anywhere from 3 to 6 sessions. We've done it all. So I definitely believe that what we're doing now is where we'll stay. And there's a couple of reasons why. So I'm a big fan of foundations program. So we go with one-on-one intro. Sorry, I have a small person.
This would be like an on-ramp. This is what's the difference?
So on-ramp and foundations to me are interchangeable. It's the same
Okay.
idea. It's basically like, what are you going to learn before we set you free into group class,
Gotcha.
right? Or allow, as we like to say, as before we allow you to go to our group classes.
Got to earn it.
Which, yeah, you do. And I think that's a big semantics piece there that is important in how you present what you're offering, and that classes are not just like, just go do it.
Right.
So yeah, so we do an intro session. It's a half hour. That intro session, we tell them how we start every member. We start them with 4 private training sessions. Those are one-on-one. They can, and they also get 2 weeks of membership. So after they do their private session, they can go to class. And so we try to schedule them in a class with the coach that they're coaching with, or that they're doing their one-on-ones with. That doesn't always happen, but the coach might prep the, coach saying like, hey, you've got this person coming in at 7:30. And then when they're done with those one-on-ones, then they go into group class. Occasionally we say like, hey, you need some more one-on-one time. Very rarely do we say, don't go to group class, or like, you're not ready for group class, but we might be like, hey, let's do like another couple. That's probably, 5% of people, to be honest. And it's more just so they have a good experience when they go into group class. In terms of the second part of that question, I think was, so we have tried also where they got like a free week.
Okay.
That was a disaster.
Gotcha.
And it was a disaster because for 2 reasons. Members don't like that. When you want to talk about personalized attention, if you go to group class and somebody comes in and they're brand new, they've never done CrossFit, and the workout's Amanda, I don't care how good you are as a coach at scaling or bringing it down. Like, okay, we're going to do, ring rows and a box dip, and we're going to do deadlifts instead of snatch. Like, you can bring it all the way back down to the basics of the movement, underlying. And the people that are committed to your program and to furthering themselves as athletes, if they have to go through that all the time in class, that's taking away from them.
Absolutely.
And that didn't work for us. It also, we found that style of come try a week, or, a couple classes first, played into the gimmicky fitness world that exists today in America. And we're not looking for people to come and do exercise and work out. We want people that, hey, I want to make a commitment. I want to train. I want a group of people. And it's sort of that, like, we throw the phrase of community around a lot. That's community. Like, we're all bought in. We all did this. We all came up through the same ranks. you know, I don't care if you went to the games on a regionals team 5 years ago. If you come from another gym, you're still going to do your athlete assessment just like everybody else.
Awesome.
And so, so in terms of provided better results, I actually had to pull data from this, which I thought I pulled the data. I was like, oh my God, that's really good. So we had a 97.8 conversion rate of people that finished foundations and then signed up for a membership.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Well, that speaks to a couple of things. It speaks to the quality of the instruction they're getting at the foundations and the quality of coaches, just relating to them and making them enjoy the program. So that's really cool. When you were speaking about how you guys developed this, my thought was actually from not the technical perspective to give them the technical expertise to get, or at least enough expertise to now fit into a class, is more along the lines of that's a great way to break down that barrier of being afraid to try CrossFit. And Chris Hinshaw gives a great story. Now, Chris Hinshaw is not, I mean, he was an Ironman champion, and he got invited to go to a workout at Santa Cruz by Annie Sakamoto. And he drove up there, and he was in his car and watching people, you know, crush it. I think they were doing some sort of Olympic lift and burpees, and he was just watching them. And it's great the way he tells the story. He does it much better than I do. It's his story, but just to relate this, he'd had no idea how much the plates weighed on there. So he thinks they're lifting like 500 pounds. We were probably doing, you know, like some sort of grace weight, you know, 135 for the men or 95. But he's like, those plates are huge, and they're throwing them around and they're doing burpees. He sat in his car and he watched this. And then he pulled out and he left, and he didn't go to class that day. And so there's that barrier to entry.
Wow.
You're the new kid and you're standing there and all these people are talking and you're like, you've never done this before. I think that is too hard for some people to do. So I love this approach. Hey, and that's why I kind of like, it might not happen every time, but the fact that they do their foundations or a couple of foundations, and then when they show up to class, there's a familiar face, their coach is there.
Yeah.
And anything you can do like that to ease that transition in, because CrossFit is hard and it is daunting, but we can scale for everyone. So it is for everyone and anyone. Mm-hmm. But there is that little piece, because it is so challenging and we don't compromise. You need a little push to get in there, and anything you can do to pull someone in and show them, look, this is going to be fine. You're going to have a blast here, because I that 98.7 conversion rate just speaks to that. And I imagine when they get into class, they're very excited to be there and so happy they've done that. And they become, as Coach Glassman used to say, the people who do this are your best marketers, because they're going to talk to about all their friends. Because it is something that's hard, that took that internal courage to go do. And now they're so excited they're doing it. It's like that with everything. We say this all the time. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. And really, what level of satisfaction would you get from it? That's why that's one of the best things about this program is, hey, there's a challenge here. So be ready for it. But you know what? On the other side of that challenge is gratification and just this feeling of I'm doing something tough and it's worth it. So I love that you guys are doing that. That's cool.
Yeah. I mean, so, you know, come back in 10 years and we'll see what we say then.
We just throw them in.
We just see what happens.
Sink or swim. No, that's great.
Yeah. It's also good. I mean, it's interesting too, when we talk about how do you develop that time with working with one-on-one. This isn't the reason we do it, but it's an incredible side benefit. And one of my old coaches, Allie Minton, used to talk about this. I mean, she probably taught 500 one-on-one intro session, private one-on-one foundations over however many years. You work with enough beginners one-on-one and get them to be able to do 9 different movements, and know the kipping pull-up and all that in 4 sessions. And that's how you gain the skill to be able to do one-on-one style personalized coaching within a group class, because you've had to think on your feet so much, but in a somewhat controlled environment, because it's only one person. And I that's not why we do it, but I do know that if we ever changed it, that's a big reason why I wouldn't want to, because I would take that away from any of my new or longtime coaches.
Yeah. And the fact that you guys are doing that in 4 sessions, that was my thought when I heard that you were describing how it's set up.
Yeah.
4 sessions to get that amount of work in. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's efficient, effective coaching. I mean, it might take an affiliate a little time to
Totally
get so good that they can whittle it down to that. But that's great.
So to your point, that's really funny you said that. I just remembered this. It used to be 6.
Nice.
And it was 6 because all of us needed more time, but we kept refining. We kept sharing, like, you know, one of the things that just works for us is that, and I know I don't have any data on this, but I know that if somebody learns how to do a kipping pull-up in those 4 sessions, they will be infinitely more successful when they go to class. And trying to teach an athlete how to do a kipping pull-up in a group class is a coach's nightmare.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like,
no,
so those 2 things, right? But we refine the process. And so in our foundations, you learn the kipping, some portion of kipping or the kipping pull up on all 4, because you got to marinate with it. And we found that works for us. Yeah. But in the beginning, we needed 6 to do that. And I remember we had a meeting like right around when the pandemic hit. We were like, you know what, I think 6 is actually too many. Like,
awesome.
But again, you kind of gotta, you keep iterating.
All right. Refine.
Yep. All right, Stefan, I think we have time for one more question. How should coaches handle members who consistently cheat on the rep schemes? It's such a touchy subject, but other members are starting to notice it and it has a negative effect.
Yes. Cheater. Liar, pants on fire.
Yes.
So I have a few thoughts on this. My first thought is they're just cheating themselves. Mm-hmm. And it has no impact on our fitness.
Right.
So I'm not going to be all crazy about this. I do understand it's annoying. You know, when you were crushing it and you see someone put a fake number on the board, yes, it's annoying. But remember, let's remember first who we're competing with in CrossFit. One person, ourselves.
Totally. Yep.
That said, at an affiliate with a good culture, I would probably just sit back if I was the head coach or the affiliate owner in this instance and just see if the community doesn't take care of this on its own. I would be available though to mediate how this goes down to make sure that it doesn't turn into a brawl or anything. But I have a feeling that one day someone is just going to have enough and is just going to say, "Hey, dude, what are you doing?" I also find now what we might think is cheating is just a person. There are some people, and I've coached some of these people who simply cannot count and move at the same time, especially when there's no oxygen in their brain. There are some people that I would be spotting people and it would be a set of 12 and they would do 8, 9, 7. Then I would just look at them going, "What are you doing?" And they just had no idea how to count. So they counted up and down on some reps, you know. So there could be that portion. And finally, if I noticed that it was really causing a problem in a group, a class, or within that my community at my affiliate, I'll pull this person aside and just let them know, "Hey, I've just noticed that you're not hitting the total reps, so your times and your scores don't actually count. You're really just cheating yourself. But other people have noticed, and you know, we all get competitive when we do these workouts, and it's causing a little friction. So you know, what's going on? Just what's going, and then there I might learn that they just can't count, or who knows where that discussion will go. But it'll just be but it's not an accusatory like you're a cheater and here's a refund and you're out of here. It's one of those things that like I think the question said something about it was impacting the community negatively in that gym.
Yeah. The other numbers are starting to notice and it has a negative effect.
Yeah, let's relax a little bit. We'll handle this situation, but let's give it some time and see what happens. You know, this might self-correct when the person sees the standard that other people are holding. It's it's very enticing to jump in and fix this and just come in hard. But I think the from my experience over time, the best solution here is just let's sit back and wait and see what happens and see if there's not an opportunity to address this in an easy, non-confrontational manner, or if it doesn't just fix itself.
Yeah. I think we could, when you talk about, being able to think on the fly, I think we could take what you just said about how you would have that specific conversation with the athlete and make it a resource for coaches. Because I think it's like what you just said is so, you're right. It wasn't alarming how you said it. The athlete is left to take the information as they want. You're not calling them a cheater. You've taken them aside, right? You're not saying it in front of the group. I think
Absolutely.
all of those things, when we talk about how do coaches get better over time, that first time you have to have that conversation is challenging, right? But if you go back, guys, and steal Stefan's word for word there, because that's probably the best I've heard about how you can do it just really eloquently and let it sit there and let them then run with the information without it being accusatory.
Yeah. You want to kind of know what's going on. Like, does this person, are they doing that because they're scared to be beaten by certain people? I mean, there's so many motivations for why this, or it's an accident, or they just, they suck at counting. So sit back on this one, because this has the potential of blowing up into something that you're like, now I go home at the end of the day and I've got that pit in my stomach. And I can't go to sleep that night because I'm reliving this bad situation we just had at the gym. We don't want that. This is one of those things we can address, calmly and over time.
Yeah, and to that point, to bring it full circle as we wrap up, when we talked about, what your perspective of an athlete is and how that frames how you see them, if it truly is a case of an athlete who they've never been in an environment where counting the reps actually mattered. They've never, and you go after them like they're a cheater. That just has such a terrible starting point for that relationship. And it will scar that relationship. And maybe it's a consideration, do you need to educate your members on why counting reps are important and why we do it, not from a cheating standpoint, but from, hey, this is part of CrossFit. This is part of our culture. This is what we do. This is power output, all that stuff, and then see what happens. So, all right. Well, with that, Stefan, I think we're up on our hour there, but big thank you from Whitney, from Stefan, from me, for everybody for joining us. If you have any questions, obviously be sure to reach out to the professional coach at CrossFit.com, and Stefan will answer all your questions. And also, we'll send you the recording. We will send you the recording as soon as it's ready, so you'll get an email from us. And then our next Q&A is happening on Wednesday, August 24th at 7 p.m. Mountain Time. You'll get a reminder about it in the TPC, and you can sign up for it again. Until then, thank you, and keep fighting the good fight.
Thank you. Awesome.
Bye. Thanks, everybody.